Today is also a day that Texas was heading into primaries. They were heading into initial elections as we speak. And I was asking Runjan a similar question. I'd like your perspective on this too. Just 10 days ago, we saw a similar shooting
Correct.
in Buffalo in New York. But today's shooting, the shooting that we've just seen take place, has taken place in a red state. Texas is a
Mm,
state with open carry laws. I want to
mm.
understand from you, could we at all expect, it's obviously too early to tell, but could we at all expect a shift in perspective in this state in particular? Because Texas is one of multiple red states where there are
Hmm.
multiple pro-gun lobbies.
Absolutely. And one of the strongest will be NRA. As someone who has lived in the United States of America, Atoya, you'd know this. The National Rifle Association, a terribly influential, well-funded body that funds politicians and elections. They have massive budgets. The NRA, in fact, for long has lobbied heavily against all forms of gun control and argued very aggressively that more guns make the country safer. It in fact relies on and staunchly defends the disputed interpretation of the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which it argues gives U.S. citizens the rights to bear arms without any government oversight. Is that likely to change, Toya, given what has happened today? What has happened today is a horror story playing out. Can anyone in America or anywhere in the world sensibly argue that the United States of America doesn't need gun control, that it's perfectly okay for any 18-year-old to walk into a gun store and buy an assault rifle, step out, kill his mother, and kill 22 other people? I think that argument will be very difficult to make as far as the NRA, which is the National Rifle Association, is concerned. Yes, Texas is a red state, but there is always a tipping point. It happened in Scotland after a mass shooting in 1994. There was public opinion. The country said enough is enough. We don't want this, and therefore bearing firearms was banned in the country. Now, many people can argue if Scotland can do it, why can't the United States of America? The pitch once again coming from Joe Biden, talking about the fact that you need sensible gun laws, that the bullying that the gun lobby has been doing for such a long time, you need to stand up to the gun lobby. Is this that moment of change where you have 19 kindergarten children who have been killed? Possibly it is, but as you rightly said, a little too early to say, Toya.
Shreya, I want to ask you here. Our audiences might remember about, a decade ago, you had Sandy Hook take place. What happened today is the
Absolutely.
second deadliest on record. That is perhaps the
Hmm.
deadliest. I think you had 26 people died then. I want to
Hmm.
ask you, then I don't believe that the Democrats had the numbers they needed. Today, what is the political distribution when it comes to both the houses? If the Democrats wanted to pass moves, particularly because one of the things we talk about is how deeply embedded the gun lobby is when it comes to the United States, how deep the ties are with the Republican side. I do want to
Correct.
understand right now, does the Democratic side have the numbers, the political strength required to make the deep changes it possibly could?
Well, it possibly now is the time. There comes a time in the history of every nation, Toya, and I don't want to be idealistic here because it's never a good idea to be idealistic when it comes to politics and politicians. But there does come a time in the history of every nation where, across ideologies, across political parties, you need to stand up and do the right thing. In this case, it is clear as daylight to anyone who is watching, whether it is in the United States of America or outside, that the United States of India, that the States of America has absolutely crap gun laws that need to go. That their gun laws are way too liberal. They need to go. If they don't, you'll continue to see what you're seeing. In fact, Toya, I was reading some statistics which tell us that since 2018, you've had 900 shooting incidents.
Wow.
900 shooting incidents. In the last year and a half, there are bodies in America that keep a tab, that keep these statistics, and they keep tabbing them up. One such agency I was reading says that in the last year and a half, You had more than 200 firing incidents, of which 27 have been at school or college campuses. So that's a scary number to go with. That's a scary number to wake up to. Is this that time where you have the Republicans and the Democrats come together and say, all right, enough with the gun lobby. What guns are doing is not keeping America safer. Instead, what they are doing is making America unsafer, and therefore you need more gun control. Is this that moment? I don't know. But politically, we've seen it, whether it's in India, whether it's in Scotland, whether it is in the United States of America. If there is political will, and in this case, political will on both sides, you can have stronger gun laws. You can have more sensible gun laws. I think this is something that has been argued for a very long time. It's not become a reality because, again, the lobby in the United States of America is very, very strong. It is very politically entrenched. It is very well funded. But any politician in their right mind, will they be able to defend these liberal gun laws in the United States of America now? Let's just wait and watch, but becoming increasingly difficult, I think, Toya.
Okay, Shreya, and I want to ask you about one more aspect here. Our audiences on their screens right now, towards the right side, they can see the photo of the culprit. I believe the culprit had himself been putting out visuals of his guns, visuals of himself on his private Instagram account. I also believe he actually bought these guns just a few days ago on his 18th birthday. Speaking to your point about the laxness of the gun laws, this is where I want to understand from you. Could you tell our audiences a little bit more about the gun laws as they stand right now in parts of the United States? Could you tell us a little bit more about the history here? I know a lot of Americans consider it integral to their freedom, the ability to carry guns. So could you tell us a little bit more here, please?
This is their interpretation of Article 2 of the Constitution, and this is what the gun lobby has argued. In America, to put it simply, in America, if you're an 18-year-old, you can walk into a gun shop, and buy an assault rifle. In this case, this 18-year-old, you're absolutely right, had just turned 18 and then walked into the store, not just bought himself a gun, also bought himself an armor. He's now been shot dead, but if you see the pictures that have come in, and law enforcement authorities in the in Texas have spoken about it as well, that he was wearing an armor, Toya, and he kills his grandmother first. And then he goes to the school, and then he starts the shooting spree in which at least 19 little children have died, in which there are at least 3 adults, I believe now, who have been killed, and the perpetrator, has been killed himself. You are asking me about the gun laws. As I said, the National Rifle Association is the leading gun lobby. And their argument has been for the longest time, for the last, say, 70, 80 years, has been that, every citizen in the United States of America, every adult, should have the right to be armed to protect themselves. But if you look at the numbers, that have been tallied up, if you look at the mass shooting incidents that have been tallied up, what is very clear is that bearing arms is proving very, very costly to the safety of Americans. It's not keeping Americans safe. Instead, it is putting their children in the line of fire, as has happened this time and has happened at multiple occasions over the last many, many years. In fact, there was some degree of control that was put in 1994. President Joe Biden, in his address, has spoken about that, in which he says that, the law trying to control the sale of guns, etc., to youngsters. After that, you had seen incidents of mass shooting plummet. And then again in 2004, this law lapses and it's not renewed for political reasons. And the number of mass shooting incidents that go up is threefold. So that's the sort of number you're talking about. As I said, is this the tipping point when America decides enough is enough? We cannot put our children in such danger. And you need to bring in stronger laws when it comes to bearing arms. Possibly it is, but today is a sad day for the United States of America. This is a national tragedy, Toya, that is playing out.
Okay, Shreya, I'm going to come to you in just a second. I want to understand from you more about what actually changing those gun laws in the country would look like. Right before we do that, I want to share with our audiences, though, we're getting some initial Republican reactions coming in. Senator Mitch McConnell, a very, very high-ranking Republican official, said he's horrified and heartbroken by the shooting. But you have no indication yet that he was dropping his long-standing opposition opposition to gun control measures. So Shreya, over there, one among a number of reactions coming in right now from Republicans, not seeing an initial change in stance, though it might be too early to say. But tell us more about what actually making those changes in the laws could possibly look like in terms of the legislative maneuvering that would have to take place.
If you look at Twitter, if you go to Twitter right now, Toya, so you've had politicians, Republicans and Democrats step out on Twitter and put out their comments. And, what is it that we hear in situations like this? What are the sort of social media posts that you see? Heartfelt condolences, prayers, etc. And even to those Twitter posts, you are seeing a very, very angry reaction coming from Americans to say, keep your prayers with you. We don't want prayers. We just need stronger laws. And when it comes to political maneuvering and changing legislation, Toya, if you want to complicate things, you can complicate things. If the Republicans want to block it, can they block it at this point of time? We've seen this in the past in the United States of America, and when it comes to gun laws, you could very well see it this time as well. If there is an attempt made to change the gun laws, make them stronger, as Joe Biden is saying, as he's appealing, you could very well have people, Republicans vote independently to say, okay, whatever the stand of our party, this is the stand we are taking. This has happened in the past. There are enough right-thinking people on both sides, and political maneuvering is not required if the country decides, if the people of the country decide that these gun laws need to go. You've spoken about the fact that where this shooting has happened is a red state. And yes, it is a red state, but it is children in this red state, 19 toddlers, quite literally toddlers who have been killed. Will people right now in Texas and other red states be looking at their television sets and saying something is going terribly wrong in this country and it needs to be changed? Is that something people are thinking? Yes, they are. And if people are thinking that, politicians will have no option but to bend to the will of the people of the country. That is how it works. So political maneuvering will be required if there is resistance coming in from the red states, if there is resistance coming in from the entire Republican Party. Otherwise, when you look at shooting incidents, and yes, it can of course be argued, Toya, that in 2018 you had seen a similar incident where a lot of people had died once again, I think 27 if I'm not mistaken, and yet the gun lobby was strong enough for the law not to change. But, times have changed. We are living in a post-pandemic world. People hopefully have got their priorities right. Again, if for you and me to sit here in India and talk about these things, one really doesn't know, except the fact that what is playing out right now is completely not just shocking. Shocking is, an understatement. What is playing out is a national tragedy in the United States of America. And if this doesn't wake them up, and if this doesn't wake the political parties up in the United States of America, then, as they say, God bless America.
Shreya, thank you so much for bringing us those details. I'd also like to thank my colleague Runjhun. She was with us a little earlier. Thank you to both of you for bringing us those details. The Texas shooting that we're talking about right now, currently the second deadliest shooting in a school on record in the United States at the current count. Now, we're going to go into a break. On the other side, we're going to be returning, but to domestic stories. We'll see you in just a second.